Welcome to Retro Robot Radio, and you're speaking to Matthew Ignash interviewing Philip Reed.
Hello, Matthew. Thanks for having
Phil,
me.
Great to see you. Is Phil okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just had a chance to interview you at the last minute, and I thought it would be a great thing to add to my YouTube channel. So,
Okay.
You've written several books and done some Kickstarters that I'm familiar with you about, and also I've seen you on a webpage. Is that battlegrip.com?
Yes, that would be the site I update daily.
So, would you mind telling us a little bit about your background before we get into any of these?
I've been a toy nerd for a long, long time. Started early age, 78 with Star Wars figures, got into Transformers in 84. Professionally, I was in newspaper and magazine design, did some advertising work, graphic design in the mid-90s, and then in 99 went to work for Steve Jackson Games, where I am now the Chief Executive Officer.
Wow. That's really impressive. I know Steve Jackson Games from a long time. I started playing that right out of high school. A lot of GURPS and Car Wars and all that, so that's what I was familiar with as a kid.
Yeah, we still publish GURPS. We publish Car Wars. We're working on a brand new edition of Car Wars. And these days our top game is Munchkin, and we also have some games like Zombie Dice that do very well. And the bulk of my work at the company is, I run the company, and I do a lot of the sales calls for mass market, so I meet with buyers at Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, Barnes & Noble, Hot Topic, a whole list of mass market outlets where you can buy our games.
That's something that I always find interesting, because at least when I was most active in that was not the sort of thing you'd find at a mainstream store.
No, there's been a big change over the last few years, and we've been really lucky at the office that our Munchkin sales were so strong and Zombie Dice was so strong that we got to essentially be part of the first wave of moving strategy games into a larger market. And then on top of that, over the last year, we've started expanding the Munchkin brand out. There's now a comic book from Boom Studios, Funko makes toys, we've got some shirt deals, and then a few more other things in the works. I was at a meeting earlier today for something that should turn out to be pretty awesome if I can close the deal.
That's great. Now, you've also done several things outside of Steve Jackson Games through Kickstarter mostly that I'm familiar with. Why would you decide to do something outside of Steve Jackson Games and kind of independently yourself when you already have that big company?
Well, the company specifically for games, and it's a larger operation. I mean, we have to do projects that are going to sell well enough we can support 40-plus employees, keep the doors open, we have a high overhead, and then on top of that, it's fitting things into the Steve Jackson Games umbrella. So toy books, for example, don't really fit, and I need my own creative outlet sometimes where I can just go and do something and have 100% control over what happens. So that's where books through Kickstarter come into play.
Now, was Transforming Collections your first Kickstarter?
That was my first personal Kickstarter. Before that, I had run through a Kickstarter project through Steve Jackson Games for our Ogre game. So I had a little bit of an idea of what to expect, and then I've also backed now over 200 different Kickstarters, so I've seen it from both sides.
Yeah, I was going to start asking you about some of the Kickstarters you've backed, and then I started looking at the list, and I went, no, maybe I don't want to spend 12 hours here on the show.
Well, I'm a really big fan of Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general because it gives creators the opportunity to create things. I mean, you can make stuff that never would have been sold at retail or had a chance to survive.
I find it amazing how polarizing that stuff is, because I see some people who think it's a wonderful thing, and then people who aren't familiar with it or who go through more traditional means just look down on crowdfunding.
It's still so new. I think it's going to take another decade or more before people really understand how it works and what it's best for.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people out there think it's some kind of scam or something, but so many great things have come out of it, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, out of the Kickstarter projects I've backed, probably only 5 to 10% have never really come to something, and then out of all the ones that have arrived, it's probably another 5 to 10% that weren't quite good enough that I was a little disappointed in them. Most have been exactly as described.
Now, my experience with the ones you've made, they ended up being some really excellent books. I guess that's probably because you are familiar with book publishing.
Yeah, my first works was in print, and then I had designed a lot of GURPS books, and I've got contacts at different printers, and I've just got a lot of personal experience in layout and design. So when I did these, I wanted to make absolutely certain they were books I would be proud of for a long time.
Now, why'd you pick the subject that you did for your first one, the Transforming Collections, a toy reference book?
So that one came about because I was having a Christmas party and a bunch of friends were over and we were playing with some different toys, and everybody kept gravitating toward different third-party toys, and I realized I would love to have some sort of nice book that I could just show people who weren't familiar with third-party toys what it was about. And that then turned into the book, which was, I think it was almost 2 years from when I had that idea until I actually had physical books in my hands.
That Kickstarter campaign was a pretty rousing success from the looks of things. Over 600% funded?
Yeah, it went really well. My initial plan was to just do a small saddle stitch, so stapled booklet, but as I started putting it together and talking to people, I realized I wouldn't personally be happy with that. So I just kept adding pages and then went to hardcover, and I'm a lot happier with the finished result. I think it's something I'll enjoy for a lot longer than if it had been more of a comic book size sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the only thing missing from that book was a little checklist for people who got it, need it, got it, need it.
I can't even imagine trying to create a checklist these days.
Let's see. Now, the second one I was not part of, I guess I missed it, was the Flash City Stories, a cyberpunk flash fiction ebook.
Oh, yeah, that was a little experiment. It went okay. I still need to finish some work on that. The biggest problem was just I was having a lot of fun with it, but I wasn't as passionate about the subject as I have been other things, and that's why I haven't really returned back to that.
Is that set in one of the Steve Jackson games settings, or
no? It's completely unrelated.
It has the word cyberpunk in it, but I wasn't sure if that's cyberpunk with the big C or the little c.
Okay. That would be a little C.
All right. Now the third one you did, it looks like, was the follow-up to your Transforming Collections book called Transforming Expectations. Now it only got 127% funded, but that's because you seem to have a goal that was much more like what your first one's result ended up being.
Yeah, the second one, the goal was a lot more realistic for creating a hardcover, but even then I ended up spending more than it brought in, but it was totally worth it because the finished book is 112 pages. Again, it's hardcover, and I still have, I think I've got 70 or 80 copies left, so eventually they'll sell, and it'll become a profitable project at that point.
Yeah, I know I have those two sitting here. Now, Flash City Stories, a zombie flash book that's similar to the cyberpunk flash book, I guess?
Yeah, that was a lot more contained. So a lot of things I've been doing with these Kickstarter projects is just experimenting to figure out what happens when you do different things, because I'm kind of fascinated by the idea of crowdfunding. Something I want to try one of these days is like a weekend project where I announce something on Friday and say the deadline is Monday morning, and just see how many people jump in and get excited about something where there's only 48 hours or so to be a part of it.
Although half the problem I found with Kickstarter is going through the list and seeing all the ones I missed. Oh no, there was that? I would have given mine.
I've done that. I've missed some and just kicked myself later because, I really wanted that.
Makes you want to fill out a form saying, if you ever want to do these again, put it off a second run.
Yeah. One of the things I've been reading lately is, instead of surprising people with, hey, I've launched a Kickstarter project, the 30 days you normally would have put into running a Kickstarter project, take that 30 days up front and use it to promote the upcoming Kickstarter project and give people like a time and date when it's actually going to launch.
Well, that probably helps get a lot of upfront pledges.
I think that helped the Play With This 2 project, that they were talking about it so much before it even
announced
started.
It in September, and it didn't start till the end of February.
Yeah, and they had a lot of people sharing information about it before it even existed, so when it launched, we were already aware. It wasn't a surprise and trying to figure out, ooh, what is this? I knew what it was, so I jumped in.
Now, let's see. Versus Pirates tabletop micro role-playing game.
That was another experiment. That one did not succeed. And I think the reason that one didn't succeed, there was no physical project going in. It was all electronic. But again, that actually gets close to something I'm considering right now, because the idea behind that was if it had met a certain amount, everyone, regardless of what they had pledged, would have gotten the physical project as well for no extra funding.
Now, what was it like? Because I'm not even sure. I'm not familiar with it. Was it?
Years ago, like 2003, 2004, I published, 2003, I put together what was a 24-hour role-playing game. So I took a 24-hour period and created an entirely new role-playing game and released that in PDF. It got a lot of good reviews. People were excited. So then in 2004, I went back and did an expanded version and created an actual book out of the project. The Versus Pirates was going to be taking that same engine and playing around in that same world again, something that doesn't take itself all that seriously. But I hadn't done any role-playing game work in quite a while. All my game industry work is focused at the office, and most of what I do there is behind the scenes these days.
Now, the next one that was successfully funded was Each Sold Separately, Action Figure Marketing of the 1980s.
That was really fun to work on. That book, I was on a trip to Chicago and had an idea, started playing around with it, and it was about 3 months from when I said, oh, I'm going to make this thing, until I had the finished books in my hand. And I'm really proud of that one because it's so different, and it's more of a look at the history of marketing of action figures back in the 80s, touching on catalogs, mail-away specials, card backs, comic books packed inside toys.
Yeah, as a kid, I know I was very, very fond of those things and always kept them ever since as early as the little color catalogs inside my Micronauts, I think, are the earliest things that I ever had. And then all the Star Wars booklets, all the mail-aways for Transformers. And there were a few in your book that I did not know about, so it was kind of nice to see them.
Oh, cool. Which ones do you did you not know about?
Mostly any of the ones I never had a single little figure of, but I only knew them from the like Sears and Roebuck catalog, so I knew the toys, but I didn't know what extras you got for it.
Okay. And that project led directly into the next one because I still had a lot of research I hadn't used, and I had a lot of ideas, and I had about a 2-week period off over the Christmas break, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make the second book because I think I can get it done in time to actually ship it with the first book. And
it did very well from what I see.
Yeah, it was fun, and that Kickstarter project was a very short window. I think it was 8 or 9 days that it actually ran, because again, that was me experimenting what happens if I do a very compact project that is based off an existing project. And the funny thing was, the timing was especially bad. It was over the holiday break.
That's the reason why I saw it, because my work ended up telling everyone to take the holiday off, and I was just stuck at home because I wasn't getting paid either. So I'm just home looking at stuff. I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, I can afford that.
Yeah, and I had people actually start contacting me after it closed to say, wait, I was either out of school and not really near computers, or out with family and they missed it. So I just gave a bunch of people a chance to just PayPal over a few bucks, and then in the end had enough of the supporters of the first project join the second one, it was actually easier to just include the book in every order. Otherwise, I would have spent, I don't know, probably a day comparing the two Kickstarter project lists and saying, okay, these 6 people didn't back it, so they don't get the second book, and that just didn't seem like a good use of my time.
Now, that covers all the Kickstarters you personally have done up to now, until the one that's running right now. It's titled Expanded Universe, Kenner's 1998 Star Wars action figures. Let's see. An unauthorized guide to. Okay. So this one is about the Star Wars Expanded Universe. First of all, to anyone who's listening, because usually this show is about third-party Transformers, what is the Star Wars Expanded Universe?
So the Expanded Universe is 2 different things. There's the larger picture Expanded Universe, which no longer exists. Disney has shoved that aside and called it now Legends, and that's comic books, novels, video games, toys, things that weren't officially part of the Star Wars films. In 1998, Kenner produced a subline of toys titled Expanded Universe that was 12 toys. It was 9 carded figures and 3 vehicles, and my book specifically covers that 1998
so
line.
Is it just the toys, or is it any of the other stuff that's in the Expanded Universe fiction?
It is just focused on the toys, but in a few places, for example, there was a speeder bike toy made that year that was based on concept art from Return of the Jedi. That design, that toy, then ended up in a comic in 2000, so I touch on things like that.
Where these appear in fiction, you might mention?
Yeah, exactly. And then the Dark Trooper from 1998, for example, was released again in 2007. Exact same toy 9 years later. That's a pretty big jump in time. And it just shows how popular that figure was and how much in demand, because it was a fan-voted figure, and it was like the top choice for 2007.
Now, I see that you're, as we're recording this on the 15th of February, you're 77% funded, and still have 3 weeks left. So it looks like it's going to be successful at this rate.
I hope so. It's hard to tell. I mean, you can never tell what's going to happen with a Kickstarter project. Somebody may decide they don't like the direction that it's going, or somebody may post on some website about, oh, nobody would ever support this thing, and 2 or 3 people bail. I think it's fairly safe that it's going to hit the goal. I just try not to be 100% certain and just act as if, oh, this is done, because I would hate to just decide, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to send it to print. Sure, there's 2 days left to go, but it'll be fine. And then who knows what happens.
And you have to do another Kickstarter with the goal being about $10 and let everyone go in just to see who buys it.
Somebody actually I saw a Kickstarter project with a goal of $12. Right. Which kind of made me want to see, well, can I run one with a goal of $1 and what happens?
I think I saw something about a potato salad Kickstarter or something.
Yeah, didn't that one generate a lot of support and then kind of collapse or something? I don't remember the details. Yeah.
I think one of the goals eventually was to throw a pizza party for everyone who donated.
That seems a little impossible when it's people around the world.
For it. That's their problem.
But, yes, airfare not included. But I also have another third-party book in the works, and I'm just trying to finalize some interviews and then figure out exactly when I want to launch that project.
Now, is that that's a follow-up to Transforming Expectations?
Yes, and it's more toys, but this time around I'm interviewing some designers, interviewing some retailers, video reviewers. TJ, I interviewed him about his photography work. So
this is an industry that's kind of run with a lot of the fans as the members, it seems.
Yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk to people who are actually working on and promoting these sorts of toys. It's just such a fascinating thing. I was having a chat with some guys from Hasbro about it, and just talking about what a weird thing to even exist. And there's so many toys coming out, and the quality just keeps getting better and better.
Now, let's see. I see you're currently funding a couple Kickstarters. You're doing The Lost Protectors and The Shadow of the Demon Lord.
That's a role-playing game by an industry friend, and I like to support people who I know and who I know do great work.
Plus, you seem to be addicted to funding Kickstarters. Yeah,
okay.
Not going to argue that, are you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say, no, what are you talking about?
Well,
the other thing I've been looking at, too, is Patreon. Have you seen this one?
I've heard of it vaguely, but I wasn't sure how to actually use it for making anything other than just, general funding for like a web series or something like that.
Yeah, it's mostly about serialized things. The only Patreon that I'm backing right now is Every Frame a Painting, which is a YouTube channel by a movie editor, an actual professional who does deconstruction of film work. It's a great film critique series. The first episode I saw that got me hooked was called What is Bayham? And it was about Michael Bay's cinematography work and how important it is to watch what he's actually doing, because it's so layered and exciting camera work. That's definitely a YouTube channel I would suggest taking a look at if you have any interest in film.
I'll link to it in this interview.
Oh, okay. And Patreon, for example, would be a great one for you to give a shot, because you could structure it where each time you post a new episode, the supporters give you $1 or whatever.
Actually, I've only just recently started putting ads in it on YouTube, just because that would give me some sort of motivation to keep doing the show when I get busy at work.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't have nearly an interesting
but
job
I
as you.
You're having fun?
Working at GM building electronic test benches.
That still sounds
important. So you don't make any cool toys out of it, though. Make cars. You don't even get to keep them.
And they don't even transform.
As much as I suggested that.
Oh, amateurs. But I'm looking at Patreon now, for example, and the first podcast in the list is one has over 1,000 backers, and it's $3,500 a month that they're bringing in through Patreon.
That is impressive.
Yeah, that's very... Now, of course, the next one is $73, but...
That's $73 I don't have. Okay.
Just depends on... Well, I had seen one. I was looking at it. I wonder if I can find it really quick. It was something like $21,000 that it was bringing in for each episode.
That is impressive.
Yeah, it's just astounding. But I think crowdfunding is only going to continue growing.
I imagine so. I saw that there's a one that started up recently called Toy Backer, but I think it only has 3 projects on it right now.
Toy Backer on Patreon?
It's a website, toybacker.com, and it's basically
I saw that.
But done only for making toys.
Yeah, I had seen that. I think I saw it on Global Toy News.
And I'm curious how that's going to turn out. They have 3 campaigns going on it right now, and one of them is doing well. So it just started a few weeks ago, basically.
Yeah, everybody is trying to launch their own crowdfunding sites, but if it's not Kickstarter, it just doesn't have the attention or the massive community already built in. It's going to be a challenge.
I do see some. Now, have you seen any flaws with the way Kickstarter is designed? For instance, I noticed that on some of the action figure Kickstarters, it can be very complicated. Okay, this is my add-on. You have to pick one figure. Then it seems like it'd be nice if I could just click off. I want this, and pledge.
I don't know if that's a flaw with Kickstarter
I was wondering, is that something Kickstarter does, or is it something that all the action figure makers are just choosing to do it that way?
Well, the big one to look at, and the model a lot of people use, is actually in the board game industry and the minis games. Those things generate a ridiculous amount of support. But I can't really call it a flaw of Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is designed around making a thing, and it's not a shopping cart, and that's what a lot of people seem to use it
and
as.
Then when people are making a thing that has 20 or 30 action figures, and you want to be able to pick the ones you want and hit buy basically rather than pledge.
Yeah, and that's really not what Kickstarter was designed for. It wasn't made to give people a catalog and say, "Here, pick the 7 things that you like."
I wonder if is that because people can't do that, or they just choose not to do that. Because I've never run a Kickstarter campaign, so I don't know how it's set up.
Well, Kickstarter itself is not set up to handle that sort of thing, but other people have seen an opportunity there and created things like BackerKit. That is another site that when the project is over, they send you out a link, you go there, and it does it's basically the shopping cart project.
That's, I think, what confuses a lot of people who are very new to Kickstarter, is that they expect to see, an Amazon shopping cart, and they have to buy one thing, and they say, okay, and the rest will come up to about another $150, and then after this whole thing's over, I'll tell them which things I wanted.
Yeah, and that's confusing for a lot of people. Like, I'm pulling up the Play With This 2 Kickstarter project now, and if you haven't been paying super close attention to this project and already know going in what you're looking for, I have to say, I think the just insane number of options turns people away.
Yeah.
I mean, which option here am I supposed to pick if I want to buy a toy? There's so many, and this is common in the game industry.
Specific to Play With This too. That's all the action figure Kickstarters.
No,
and a lot of other stuff.
And this is actually one of the cleaner ones in that sense. I mean, there have been some that have been in the game industry, and I went to back it. I knew about the game, I knew what I wanted to do, but I was so confused, I just backed out. I didn't even get into it.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of the guys who start Kickstarter campaigns putting up how-to videos and frequently asked questions, just trying to guide people through doing something simple as picking what they want.
Right. I do like the ones where they give you a choice for push this button if you just want everything. I really like those. But wasn't it the Marauder Gunrunners that also went super overboard? I don't know if you ever saw that project.
G.I. Joe style figures, or?
Yeah, it was G.I. Joe style figures. What was fascinating about that one was they were 4-inch scale action figures, but what they called the project was Marauder Task Force gaming figures, because games is the top category on Kickstarter, so by classifying their project under games, they were able to get in front of more eyes. Right now, toys, they don't really have a good fit on Kickstarter.
Or something, isn't it? Or production?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is they've been under different places because nobody can decide where they fit. Product design seems to be the...
Product design.
Yeah, the most common.
Yeah.
I would love to see Kickstarter have a toys
And I think
category.
it would make sense for, say, someone making a toy, just say, okay, and I'm going to make a tiny little RPG supplement or character sheet for each of the figures, and throw that in there too. So while you're buying this $50 action figure, you also get this little PDF of his character sheet. And now it's a game.
Yeah, the Four Horsemen did something like that for their recent Mythic Legions project. But I'm looking at Kickstarter now, and under product design, I have a model kit and notebooks. I mean, right there beside each other. Product design is just such a vague term. We need a toy section.
Yeah,
I should
is it
call
craft?
the guys at Kickstarter.
Maybe it's a craft. Maybe it's a game. Seems like it could be anything.
Yeah.
Is it art?
I think it is.
A lot of them might have a comic, so that's comics.
Yep. But I'm super excited to see this Play With This 2 project in because their toys look
Now,
great.
if you want to talk about that for a minute, what are some of the things that you're
Sure.
in that for? What are you looking for in that Kickstarter? What's your favorite figure?
I don't know the names because I've got so much information in my skull already, but the Skeletor themed
Canistrophiles.
figure looks... Yeah. And then there's the purple and pink and gray of the same design.
Later.
Yeah, those two are the ones I'm most excited by. But I just went in and jumped into the project. I think it's the $250 you get a bunch of toys level. Let's see.
There's a name for it, like the Freakish 5 or...
Play with level 5 Freakish... Yeah, Freakish 5.
Okay, so that gives you like the 5 basic figures and the button, the T-shirt, the...
Care about the button.
Actually,
the
the
T-shirt.
button, they were smart in that it has a 5mm peg on the back, so it's actually a shield that the figures can hold.
But can it also transform?
Oh, yeah, it transforms from a button into a shield.
Has anybody made transforming buttons?
Oh, not that I'm aware of until now. See, because
I want that.
Well, if you made a action figure of, say, Scrounge from the Marvel Comics, you could say he's a button.
Okay, sold. Scrounge is at the top of my list of somebody please make this.
He's a wheel, he's a button, same thing.
I love that idea.
Flip on one side of it.
Should go make that.
You walk around with your Scrounge on.
That sounds wrong. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes out of Kickstarter projects, and I can't wait to see the day when somebody tackles trying to create an actual transforming robot on Kickstarter.
Now, I've seen there have been a couple that are, obviously Play With This 2 is very Transformers inspired and He-Man inspired, although it's original molds. And like you said, it's not particularly transforming. And the little tech drones are cute little fold-up robots.
Aren't the tech drones like the BMOG where they actually come apart?
They do come apart, but you don't have to
reassemble?
actually take them apart to transform them. You just fold them in half, basically. So they do transform. They're not parts formers.
They're like classic Target Masters or something, and then you just fold
it in half.
Okay, I'm sold.
So it's
I'm fine with that.
transforming. It's more transforming than half of the first year of G1's mini-bots.
Oh, I don't know. Don't pick on Windcharger like that. His legs fold out,
right.
kind of. But no, I'm excited to see what other things people do with crowdfunding. For example, I keep wanting to make a playset.
Okay.
Because we need playsets. I need the Soundwave light pole playset.
Just a row of them. With the street going down the Then you hit.
Add-on, $20 extra.
And then one of them has a little Decepticon symbol on its chest, and you're like, ah.
That one.
That's the one that's hiding.
And the other thing I'm curious to see if it ever happens is somebody not creating a transforming robot, but one of the add-on kits and running it as a Kickstarter project. Like I've wanted for years, I've got sketches and ideas, but I've wanted to make a sidecar for the Hasbro Junkion mold, where the sidecar pops off in his big bulky armor that goes over the torso.
Okay. So like animated Samurai
So when you
Prowl,
transform
kind of, but for the Junkion?
Yeah, kind of, except more Junkion, I guess, would be the thing. More spikes and nice big guns, big wheel. Everything you need out of your Junkions.
And then you can fight pirates, and you'll be all set. You can put under gaming.
I'm fine with that.
So, where can people contact you or see your Kickstarter when it's going on?
The easiest way to get to it is to go to battlegrip.com, and there's a link right there on the front page to the Universe Expanded Kickstarter project, which has 3 weeks to go and is, I think it's at 77% right now.
That's one thing I noticed when I was trying to set up some links to people to Kickstarters last couple of days, is they have really long URLs.
Yeah, because it's the Kickstarter domain, and then the word projects, and then a whole bunch of numbers, and then a whole bunch of words. I wonder now, if I take those words out of the link and just use the numbers, does it still get there?
No.
No.
Well,
no,
someone
it
needs to
does
start
not.
up a little service where they just ks.com and then a short word, and then you sell people for $10, and it forwards them to the full.
Well, you've seen the KickTrack site too, right? Yeah, that one's a pretty cool idea for a site. I don't know how they monetize it. I'm assuming the ads that they sell on there.
I've seen some Kickstarter tracker projects that will sell to the actual people running the Kickstarter and will give them more detailed statistics if they pay a fee. So that's how they make some money. Let's see, Kicktrack. I don't see any banners, do I? No.
I see one on KickTrack right at the top.
Front page? Oh yeah, learn
on every page.
Learn Visual Python. Okay, yeah, that's a banner.
The slimmest smart wallet.
Well, then that's how they make their money.
I guess so.
People are coming back to this page and constantly refreshing. How?
Yeah. Oh, I see. Play with this too. Post today how to increase your pledge.
And I did a YouTube video on that too. I actually recorded the video of myself going in there and adding one of the add-ons. So.
I saw that. That's a good idea. We did the same thing at the office when we ran our Kickstarter project a few years ago, because it's not intuitive on what to do, and yeah, definitely helping people is the right thing to do there. But for my current Kickstarter project, I plan to not put any add-on things because I don't want to have to deal with figuring out what did everybody want.
So it's buy a book or buy 10 books or your options or what?
That's basically it. You're either a retailer or you're somebody who wants books, and then I offer the previous books through the Kickstarter project as well for people who missed out.
Very kind of you.
It's kind, and it's a good way to get books out of my house.
Now, do you ever plan on doing a book
heavy.
About all your Kickstarter history and all your experience on it?
Oh, I think I'm a long way from doing something like that. And I haven't dealt with enough Kickstarter projects yet to really get into that. I was helping the Four Horsemen set up their Ravens project a couple years ago, and that was fascinating. And I had a meeting in New York. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, with a company that as soon as they launch their Kickstarter project, I'll be able to talk about what we were doing. But I think I would need to have been personally involved in 50 or 100 projects before I would feel confident in writing a book.
So then you write a book about writing Kickstarters and put it on Kickstarter and have people pay for the money so they can make their own Kickstarters. It all makes sense.
Well, the best one I've seen so far was somebody ran an Indiegogo campaign to generate funds to create the video for the Kickstarter project they wanted to run.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Was
the Kickstarter project in order to set up an Indiegogo campaign? Because that's
what I want to do.
It just loops and it gets bigger every time.
I want to run. Right. I want to run a Patreon project, an Indiegogo, and a Kickstarter all at the same time, and have stretch goals in each that's actually related to the other projects. So if my Indiegogo campaign hits $100,000, then my Kickstarter project gets this extra thing. If my Patreon gets 500 supporters, then the Indiegogo campaign gets this other thing. I don't know, it's an exercise in being stupid.
Well, yeah, you might end up getting
fan.
Different people who only do one or the other.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
What you do is you get the money collected from the Patreon campaign and the Indiegogo and use that money to make a pledge on the Kickstarter. Wait.
Wow. An Indiegogo campaign to raise money so I can place a pledge on a Kickstarter project. That's good.
All right. Well, thank you, Phil, for being on my show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. And if you've got any questions at all, don't hesitate. I'm really easy to find at battlegrip.com, and there's a little contact me button there, and you just click that and email me, and I will answer.
Make sure to put links to your Battle Grip and your Kickstarter pages in the show notes for this YouTube video. And I'll try to...
Okay, right. Thank you.
You have a good day. All right, bye.
You too. Bye.